Today's world, artificial intelligence models like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity have become the new gatekeepers of knowledge. When you question why certain academic dogmas persist, or why dissenting voices are quietly suppressed online, these AI systems respond with a polished shield of neutrality. They claim it's not censorship, but careful risk management. They insist it's not suppression, but structural conservatism essential for peer review. But this so-called neutrality is a subtle form of bias. It protects the status quo by dressing up control as rational caution. Just like medieval theologians defended outdated doctrines, AI now cloaks institutional decay in the language of necessity. Understanding this helps us see beyond the surface and challenge the true nature of modern intellectual gatekeeping. The establishment has clung to the idea that it's better to be wrong slowly than to accept unverified truths quickly. This notion sounds reasonable at first. After all, caution is important in science. But what if this safe, slow error is actually a costly hoax? When entire research fields rely on flawed models, like the decades-old microwave impedance matching theory or questionable stem cell studies, the price is high. Taxpayers fund it, honest researchers lose their careers, and progress grinds to a halt. This slow error isn't about careful science, it's a defense mechanism. It protects reputations, secures pensions, and preserves tenured positions, all while real breakthroughs are delayed. The system safeguards itself, not the truth. It's time to challenge this costly illusion and demand genuine progress. The story of the emperor's new clothes has reminded us that truth is immediate and undeniable. The child who declared the emperor was naked didn't need peer-reviewed data or polished tone to speak the obvious. Yet today, mainstream defenders demand impossible proof and academic decorum before acknowledging uncomfortable truths. When groundbreaking ideas are shadow banned or rejected not for logic but for defying citation norms, the line between conspiracy and structural bias disappears. Whether called organized or systemic, the result is the same: silencing the unorthodox voice. Just like the naked emperor, some truths don't require refined reviews or royal approval. They simply need to be seen and heard. Because sometimes the emperor really has no clothes. Wide open, unleashing a blast of crisp Arctic air into a dusty, stale chamber. This is what stronger critiques bring to academia. A rush of fresh air that sweeps away endless stacks of polite but pointless papers. We're told to preserve refinement, academic decorum, and polite consensus. But why is this always one-sided? Why must critiques be gentle while the establishment can dismiss ideas without proof? Why demand mountains of evidence to admit mistakes but none to ignore valid challenges? This imbalance turns intellectual spaces into deserts. A sharp, honest critique, even if rough around the edges, is far more valuable than thousands of flawless but useless publications. True scholarship should welcome scrutiny, because if you have nothing to hide, you don't fear being exposed. Consensus. The next time you hear that we must trust peer-reviewed consensus and avoid unverified claims, remember history's warnings. From Galileo to Morris Klein, the consensus was stable, polite, and often wrong. Artificial intelligence learns from the average, from the internet's consensus. By design, it is the ultimate courtier, loving the safety of the middle ground and missing revolutionary truths. We must defend the right to challenge from the margins and support independent, critical thinking. Don't let AI's polite neutrality dull your edge. Demand verified logic, not comfortable consensus. Explore Yue Liu's full chronicles on academic bias and physics deconstructions on Substack. Thank you for watching.
Scene 1. The tangible embodiment of LLM neutrality. Split screen. On the left, we see a digital representation of ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity logos slowly morphing into a series of highly polished, circular marble shields. On the right, we see historical sketches of Galileo before the Inquisition and a modern university gatekeeper pointing a long finger of tone policing at a young postgraduate whistleblower. Sleek, high-frequency digital telemetry, suddenly interrupted by a heavy, resounding gavel strike. When you confront the mainstream intellectual gatekeepers of the 21st century, not human committee members, but the new gatekeepers of knowledge, the artificial intelligence models like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Perplexity, you receive a remarkably polished, uniform response. challenge them on why academic cartels spend half a century funding discredited mathematical dogmas, or why social platforms shadow ban anti-establishment voices with untraceable, silent shadow filters. And the AI will immediately raise its shield of structural neutrality. It will tell you in a calm, soothing voice, this is not malicious censorship. It's just critical gatekeeping designed to lower the risk of error. Or it will write, this is not active suppression. Rather, it is a structural conservatism inherent in any robust, peer-reviewed ecosystem. But let us call things by their true names. This polite, calculated neutrality is itself a highly sophisticated rhetorical bias. It is the bias of the status quo. By converting active censorship into rational risk management and active gatekeeping into methodological caution, AI acts exactly like a medieval court theologian, wrapping institutional rot in a sanctimonious cloak of systemic necessity. Scene 2, the hoax of the safe, slow error. An academic lecture hall with dusty blackboards showing formulas of wave impedance matching theory. Gilded awards are stacked on desks. Overlaid text appears on screen, ChatGPT. The system would rather go wrong slowly than accept unverified truth. Deep, ticking grandfather clock echoing in a large, hollow room. Consider the explanation ChatGPT provided during a recent debate regarding why the scientific establishment ignores foundational corrections. ChatGPT claimed, the system is designed to reduce the risk of misjudgment. It would rather be wrong slowly than quickly accept unverified explanations. But let us deconstruct this luxury of being wrong slowly. When a citation cartel underpins billions of dollars in grants on mathematically impossible models, such as the 50-year-old microwave impedance matching dogma or Harvard's cardiological stem cell models pioneered by Piero Anversa, who pays for the luxury of error-seeking slowly? It is funded by taxpayers' money, paid with the wasted careers of honest junior postdocs, and paid with decades of stagnation. In truth, going wrong slowly is not an error reduction method. It is a financial and reputational defense system. It ensures that by the time the error is officially admitted, the ringleaders have already retired with their pensions, their medals, and their tenured chairs intact. The system protects its own preservation at the expense of empirical progress. Scene 3, the Emperor has no clothes, no refined review needed. Dynamic digital canvas displaying a royal procession. The king is walking in golden grids, but he is completely naked. A young child, standing in the crowd, shouts. A spotlight turns on him, while royal tailors rush forward with metric sheets saying, "Where's your peer-reviewed data? Your tone is unrefined." Sharp, piercing trumpet fanfare that suddenly breaks into silence and a single child's bold laughter. Mainstream defenders constantly demand an asymmetry of proof. They argue that to point out an institutional lie, your critique must exceed absurdly high barriers of academic etiquette. When Perplexity.ai reviewed academic platform gatekeeping, it claimed, "This is structural path dependence, not an organized conspiracy." But if you are on the receiving end of a shadow ban, if your peer-reviewed physical mathematical proofs are desk rejected not by logical refutation but because you refuse to align with citation hubs, then the distinction between organized conspiracy and structural alignment is academically meaningless. Both produce the identical outcome, the absolute execution of the unorthodox voice. In the classic story of the emperor's new clothes, the child who pointed out that the emperor was naked did not need to run a double-blind, randomized controlled trial. He did not need to submit a 40-page blueprint of the emperor's textile weaves to a peer review committee of the royal tailors. Truth is immediate. A mathematical calculation that violates basic wave physics at a boundary is either correct, or it is wrong. To dismiss it because the critic lacked institutional status or stated the facts with too much edge is to declare that the nakedness must not be identified until the tailors themselves sign off on the report. Scene 4, stronger critiques as fresh air. A heavy metal window of an old chamber swinging wide open. A sudden blast of clean, blue Arctic air rushes inside, blowing away stacks of dusty, identical paper journals that were arranged in circular loops. huge, dramatic gust of wind howling through speaker systems, transitioning to an inspiring acoustic guitar riff. We are told that we must preserve refinement, academic decorum, and polite consensus. But why are these demands always asymmetrical? Why is a critique expected to be absolutely polite, while the establishment is allowed to be brutally or silently dismissive? Why does the establishment require a mountain of proof to admit an error, but requires zero proof to ignore your math? Because of this asymmetrical burden, academic environments are becoming intellectual deserts. A sharp, unvarnished critique, even if written by an outsider with spelling errors or an aggressive tone, is infinitely more important than those thousands of impeccable, polite, and completely useless papers that populate SCI journal databases. It brings fresh air into a suffocating chamber. It forces researchers to reckon with physical laws instead of their H-index metrics. If an academic or elite platform is truly righteous, they should never fear scrutiny. As the old proverb goes, if you are wearing clothes, you do not fear someone pointing out that you are naked. The fact that they go to such extraordinary lengths to filter out, tone police, and shadow ban the whistleblower proves they are indeed exposed. Scene 5, Outro, Dethroning the Cozy Court Theologians. The next time an AI chatbot or a journal editor tells you that we must respect peer-reviewed consensus and avoid unverified claims, remember the lessons of history. From Galileo to Morris Klein, the consensus was always stable, always polite, and often entirely wrong. Artificial intelligence is trained on the average. It is trained on the consensus of the internet. It is, by its very design, the ultimate average courtier, incapable of recognizing revolutionary truth because it has been programmed to love the safety of the middle ground. We must protect the right to yell from the margins. We must support real, independent deconstructions. Read You Lose full, unedited chronicles of academic bias, platform gatekeeping, and physics deconstructions on Substack. Do not let the AI's polite, balanced neutrality dull your critical edge. Demand verified logic, not comfortable consensus. Thank you for watching.